Hello, I'm Bill LeMay, and thank you for watching Community Matters. We hope you'll continue to watch as we discuss issues facing our community and provide you with the resources and information needed to find solutions. Welcome. This week we're joined by some of the folks from Operation Resolute, a North Carolina nonprofit dedicated to sustaining families within the U.S. Armed Forces by serving with and working through military chaplains. Here to tell us how and why they do what they do are Joel McDaniel, Executive Director, and Kimberly McDaniel, Communications Director of Operation Resolute. And to both of you, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Bill. Thank you.
Well, let's start with some basics and just tell us a little bit about yourselves, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, Kimberly and I have been married about 31 years. We've been around Raleigh for, well, almost 25 years. Served on various churches in this area, was a pastor, and we started this organization about 7.5 years ago.
Now, originally, you had started an outfitters type of organization. So what was that, and how did that evolve into what you have today?
Yeah, short of it is one of the churches, Providence Baptist here in Raleigh. I was serving, and one of the things that I was doing was men's ministry. And the church gave me some latitude to be able to form my own nonprofit outside of the church, where we utilize the outdoors, particularly hunting and fishing, just to connect men, and a lot of father and son type activities. And while we were doing that, a friend of mine who was a chaplain, still is a chaplain, made his first rotation to Iraq, and I got an email from him, and he said, would the outdoor ministry send fishing equipment, which I thought was kind of strange, being in Iraq, but it just showed what little bit I knew about it. Some of the guys that he was dealing with that were on his teams were doing a lot of the ordnance disposal from the IEDs, all of the stuff that we became very aware of as a nation. And they had access to these places that Saddam had created, and it was stocked full of fish, and he said it would really bring a touch of home if these guys could get away and just for a few hours enjoy some peace and quiet. So we went to New Sports Shop down in Kinston, bought a bunch of stuff, worked with them, and shipped it over. So that was our first exposure to the military.
So you purchased fishing poles and sent it over to Iraq so they could fish on Saddam's lake.
Yeah, we basically created a Baghdad fishing club. That's what we helped do. So it was kind of an interesting opportunity.
Well, Kimberly, you see it from a perspective that a lot of our viewers will never be able to see it from. But so you're sending fishing poles over to Iraq. How does this help the soldier? Is it just that brief moment, guys, where they can get away from it all? Does it make that big a difference?
I think it goes way beyond that brief moment, because what I've realized working with Joel is that a lot of these soldiers are very isolated. So when they're over there, they aren't with their families, they don't have the support system, may not ever go to the base chapel. But by having a relationship with the chaplain who's providing these fishing poles, they get the camaraderie that day with all their buddies, with the chaplain. But then when there's an issue and they really need to talk to somebody, that relationship of trust is founded and it's started, and they can go back. So one, to decompress, get away from the stress and do something fun, but more importantly, to start a relationship that's going to continue into the future and pass that base. They may meet the next chaplain because they remember that this one was invested in them, somebody for them to go to when they have a problem later.
Now, is that how it evolved into what you have today? And because I know chaplains are very important in what you do. Tell us about that.
Well, the way it evolved, that was, 2007, 2008 when we helped do that. Didn't really have a whole lot of connection after that. Life kind of went on. Fast forward to 2013, same chaplain that we had worked with in Iraq just gave me a call out of the blue. We were talking, and come to find out he had become the group chaplain for a particular special operations group. And he began asking questions about what's going on with the outdoor ministry. We'll come to find out they needed some help to be able to work with their chaplain teams to care for the wives and the kids as the men, the individuals on those particular teams were on deployment. And so that began a whole discussion of taking this nonprofit that we have, rename it, refocus it, and completely work with the military. And so as we were in those discussions, it really opened our eyes up to the power of, as Kim was referring to, relationships with the chaplains and the individuals that they're seeking to serve. And so what we have found our kind of niche is to provide those means that are unique, whether it be a hunting trip, fishing trip. We've done zoo days where we've had hundreds of people at the North Carolina Zoo, but everything is focused through the chaplain. So it just is a natural connecting point for those families. And as Kim just already referenced, when they connect as a person and not necessarily as a project, and we become kind of friends and I trust, well, now I'm much more apt to reach out and say, hey, we've got some issues with our family, or there are just some things I'm just really trying to get straight in my mind that I'm having trouble with. Those things are a little bit easier after a hunting trip, fishing trip, whatever it was that we offered.
What are some of the challenges that the chaplains and these service men and women are facing, primarily men, I guess, in this case, when they come back from Iraq or fighting the war on terror? It's been ongoing now for like 20 years, hasn't it? And their challenges they have with their family and in themselves and what they believe, and many are very depressed. We know what the suicide rates are. Mm-hmm. So if you could help our viewers understand what it is you guys see and why what you do is helping.
What we've seen is just how stressful life is. I mean, I had no idea until our own daughter married into this, and they're not home, and especially with special forces. They're only home a couple months out of the year sometimes. Even when they're in America, they're training, they're ramped up to such a pace that the adrenaline's flowing all the time. So you've got a wife who's trying to work, raise kids. Husband comes back, he's the boss, really good at being the boss of his men, very intense. That doesn't fly well at home when she's been doing everything on her own. So lots of marriage pressures, just the demons, the nightmares. I've got a friend right now whose husband just retired from the Marines, and still a lot of nightmares. Medicine doesn't help. Long lines of VA is doing a good job, but it's hard to get all the attention you need through that kind of support system. So the problems that we see are marriages, families. The divorce rate is upwards of 70%. Which is huge. So to have somebody in their corner and to have a place they can bring their family. We did the zoo tickets. Most of them had never even taken their kids to the zoo. There's a kind of getting home and wife is running the family. They don't even think about what does a good dad do. And a lot of them have come from broken homes themselves, so they don't have that role model. So the chaplain and their family being the role model, us providing those opportunities to get them together, it just gives them a place that they can have a trusted confidant, get help for these issues.
Well, Joe, I know we'll talk about this in the segments coming up about property that you now have purchased for hunting and fishing and all of these things. Can you, and I know the viewers are sitting out there going, well, you got to pay for this stuff. Yeah. What can I do?
Yeah.
What can businesses do? Because I know you rely on support, do you not?
Yeah, I mean, we're a private nonprofit, so every dollar we spend is a dollar we have to raise. And we've got several North Carolina businesses that have come up to be corporate sponsors. We've got several family foundations that are supporting us from North Carolina, but it's going to continue. It's going to take more. You referenced we just were able to purchase 430 acres on the western part of Hyde County, and so now we're in the second phase of raising money to build a 5,400 square foot retreat center, and that's going to vastly expand our ability to service, because what we've been doing for the last 7.5 years is beg, stealing, and borrowing property. I've said all the way from Carteret County up to Caswell County, anywhere that we can do a trip. So now to have everything localized, but with that comes a pretty hefty price tag. So just not just from the standpoint of money, but I think what this communicates to the military community, that there are people that, yes, it's good to say thank you for your service, but how much more so to really be able to invest. And then this organization, this effort also lends opportunities for people to go and serve. In fact, you're going to be interviewing two of my board members, or two of my really good friends. Their first exposure was to go on a trip and to cook. And out of that, they started forming relationships. Out of that, they got to know the chaplains. Out of that, they saw the value of what this ministry was offering. And so it's money, but it's also an opportunity to be able to just go and do hands-on, be in the background. It's not about Operation Resolute. It's about us providing the means for the chaplain to do what he does and to get to know his guys. But just for us to serve, the way I term it, man, we're just carrying the water. That's what we're doing. Just pick up the bucket, take it where it needs to go, set it down, and just keep moving.
Man, thank you both for what you do.
Well, thank you.
And viewers, step up. I know they will. Don't go anywhere, because coming up we have a lot more to talk about. We'll come right back.